The Certainty Principle by David Light, Chapter 7, Sections 1 and 2. M is for mandate. Manifest my mandate. Imagine choosing ultimate accountability for actions manifesting the results of my talents and skills for this instant and for the consequences of my actions forever. What is the value of such a choice? And what is its application? The power resides in the question, quote, how do my choices change if I frame each one in the context of the forever horizons? Question mark. My mandate is my individual role and responsibility in manifesting the reality around me. My role exists whether or not I decide to seek it out. Finding it and embracing it is the central challenge in life. The penalty life exacts for indecision and inattention is despair. Quote, the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation, unquote. Henry David Thoreau, 1854. First, a story. The story of the three stonecutters. On a foggy autumn day in 1201, a lone traveler happened upon a large group of workers at a construction of Salisbury Cathedral adjacent to the river Avon. Despite being tardy for an important rendezvous, curiosity convinced the traveler that he should inquire about their work. With a slight detour, he moved towards the first of the three tradesmen and said, "My dear fellow, what is it that you're doing?" The man continued his work and grumbled, "I am cutting stones." Realizing that the mason did not wish to engage in a conversation, the traveler moved toward the second of the three and repeated the question. To the traveler's delight, this man stopped his work, ever so briefly, and stated that he was a stonecutter. He then added, "I came to Salisbury from the north to work, but as soon as I earn 10 quid, I'll return home." The traveler thanked the second mason, wished him a safe journey home, and he headed towards the third of the trio. When he reached the third worker, he once again asked his original question. This time the worker paused, glanced at the traveler until they made eye contact, and then looked skyward, drawing the traveler's eyes upward. The third mason replied, "I am a mason, and I am building a cathedral." He continued, "I've journeyed many miles to be part of the team that is constructing this magnificent cathedral. I've spent many months away from my family, and I miss them dearly. However, I know how important Salisbury Cathedral will be one day, and I know how many people will find sanctuary and solace there. I know this because the bishop once told me his vision of this great place. He described how people would come from all parts to worship here. He also told me that the cathedral would not be completed in our days, but that the future depends on our hard work." He paused and then said, "So I am prepared to be away from my family because I know it is the right thing to do. I hope that one day my son will continue in my footsteps, and perhaps his son also, if need be." Period. As related by Callahan, 2008. Cutting stones, I earn 10 quid, constructing this magnificent cathedral. What distinguishes these three masons? I suggest it is perspective. The first man has none. His view is so narrowed to the task at hand that he reacts gruffly to the being bothered with the traveler's interest in him. Similarly, the second man focuses on getting paid and escaping the drudgery. The third mason is different. The cathedral would not be completed in our days, but the future depends on our hard work. A stonemason works differently when he has a blueprint and is skilled at how to use it. But the true mastery happens when the design in mind reaches beyond the page to the purpose of the work. As with medieval masons, building a cathedral, my labor is my duty. But mastery of that duty is driven by the understanding of my work's larger significance. Such mastery gives work meaning. A president's job is leadership, but it is the meaning behind the work that separates the true leaders from people managers. Likewise, a carpenter's mandate is the mastery of his skills, tools, and the materials in the domain of those who will be served by the product of his excellent work, even if they never know his name. It is an existential physical irony that though it is impossible for a single human identity to have any lasting importance in the world, their work forever changes each subsequent instant forever. While individual mandates are unique, mandate classes are enduring. There will always be farmers, doctors, software developers. Individual mandates show up early and are nurtured, neglected, or thwarted. Mandate is a matter of talent, skill, focus, and circumstance, but mostly native talent and focus. Mastery manifests naturally, but only if one chooses to focus and avoid the distractions of conformity to the miserable mean. Like the third Mason, to have a mandate means uncovering the personal horizon that exceeds temporal constraints, the forever horizon. The mandated individual is compelled first by talent and intuition, and in time by experience and skill, followed then by the courage to discover and rediscover the optimal path of action to supreme mastery. In contrast, the mandate-free spectator has no such compass, seeking identity by association with outcomes beyond his individual control. Civilization is the story of the distribution of human beings between these two extremes. Mandators make outcome-free choices based on necessity dictated by their horizons. Spectators want to follow others, watching what happens and going with the flow. They embrace the outcome-based decision-making philosophy. Because outcomes are uncontrollable under the best of circumstances, outcome-based decision-making leads to a whipsaw life. An example of the buy high, sell low phenomenon in commodities and securities trading. Most investors are momentum buyers. They commit like lemmings. The mandator is the opposite of the spectator in this regard. The mandator needs to be going the other way, against the crowd. But his motive is not identity bound. Appearing cool is not important. It is a defensive action to avoid poisoning the power that made them productive to begin with. Protection of their individual mandate. This partially explains Bob Dylan's refusal to attend the Nobel ceremony, Contra 2016. Celebrity poisons both the fan and the celebrity. The vanity it promotes distracts from the focus on mandate required to produce the works of such exceptional caliber. The fascination we have with observing animals in the wild explains our natural attraction to mandators. The behavior of a mandator resonates deeply as authentic, if not unsettling, and even terrifying. Animals behave instinctively. That authenticity aesthetic is as primordial as sexual arousal. Salou, 2013, originating from a deep instinctive certainty of self-preservation. Meticulous attention to one's mandate is an antidote to the cycle of fear, regret, and desperation that plagues the uncertain brain. Whether a carpenter or a king, tenacity is the vital discipline of the mandate fulfillment. As such, submission to fear and regret is the acid test of the mandated life. Section 7.1, Wrong Choices. Quote, "The fool who persists in his folly will become wise." Unquote. William Blake, 1793. Making a wrong choice of a mandate is not a bad choice. The bad choice is no choice at all. Failure can be defined as deferring my mandate to circumstance. Undaunted by his struggle to fund circumnavigation in his homeland, Magellan, a Portuguese citizen, did the unthinkable in 15th century Iberia. He went to the King of Spain, who promptly said yes. Doubtless he anticipated the possibility of mutiny alongside the likelihood of navigating some of the most dangerous waters in the world. But none of this stopped the captain from pressing on. His mandate of circumnavigation was supreme and infectious, empowering the expedition to overcome devastating setbacks, including the death of Magellan himself late in the voyage. After completing the 42,000-mile route in 609 days, only one of the 5 ships remained and only 1/10 of the original crew. In the chronicle of the voyage, one of the survivors wrote of Magellan, quote, "He was our mirror, our light, our comfort, our true guide." Unquote. Nicholas Pigafetta, 1525. Until I commit, it is always easier to succumb to circumstance than maintain my focus on my mandate. Certainty means my mandate reigns supreme, regardless of circumstance, regardless of outcomes, for all time.